Okay guys, this video is going to show you how to get to the work that I've shared with you on my OneDrive. So you should have all received an email that had this folder shared with you. I'm going to use this folder to give you test material and other things that we may need to share. So make sure you have access to it. I would start by copying this folder and dragging it right onto your desktop. So copy and paste it onto your desktop so that you're working locally. This folder contains all of what you need for this week's test, including the test itself. So if you take a look at the test, this is what you're going to need to do. You don't need to create the drawing, you just need to create the assembly. So it's going to look like this. Next week you're going to actually create a drawing, but I'll cover that in greater detail later on. So hold on to that. That's what you're going to need to build. I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's all done and give you a couple of tips as well. That it's been a little while since we've done some assembly, so I just want to make sure that you have the information you need before you get started. Apologize. Should have had SolidWorks up and running. Okay, so here's the assembly completed. This is what you're going to build. I'm going to give you some tips. These blocks right here are very difficult to work with in their current color. So just a quick review, if you right click and you go up here to appearances, you can select that guy. It's going to launch this little dialog box here, and we can go down and make it a color that's a little bit easier to see. I think this red works well. So before you make a bunch of them, go ahead and make them red. If you've forgotten, by the way, once you pull them in, if you hold the control button down, it'll make some new copies. Alright. So changing the color is one thing you're going to need to do. You're going to need to review your mates on mechanical mates, and we're going to do these gear mates. If you remember my last video, I talked about when you do the gear mates, you're going to want to use the tooth count in order to get them to spin correctly. Don't be alarmed. The person who drew these gears made a mistake. The teeth are a little too large here on this gear, and that they would be binding if it were for real. These are VEX parts for those of you who might be familiar with VEX Robotics. Another tip I want to give you for building this assembly is I've thrown some challenges your way in that we've got square shafts in round holes here, and we've got square shafts running through square holes. How do you get those things to stay centered and still spin? Because it's not going to spin if you were to do a width mate with these. So you may remember that if you turn on your axes, you can view both. These guys right here were created, and they're in the middle of each of those parts. So that's how this assembly was built, primarily using not the features of the parts themselves, but the reference geometry. So you're going to need those to get those centered. Take a look here. This is flush. This is flush. The details are also pretty clear in this video. It shows you where things need to be located, in this PDF document. So if you take a close look at this, make sure you got the gears in the right place. But the tricky part, I just wanted to make sure that you remember to use reference geometry. All right, and just take a quick peek here underneath the gear mates. If I wanted to edit that, just want to remind you that when I did this, that I set the values of 60 and 36. I don't know why they came out like that. It should be at 62 and 36. All right. So again, look in your shared folder. You're going to use all of these parts. When you submit the test, when you're all done, make sure that you include all of the parts that I gave you. So you're going to take your whole test there, and you're going to that whole folder and put it into your shared OneDrive with me so that I can grade it.